Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining to learn more about the importance and process behind effectively testing new tactics and sources. I'm Chantal Johnson, a director of digital strategy with Metric Theory, a performance marketing agency that recently merged with Media Monks. We help our clients build full funnel growth strategies across paid search, paid social, programmatic and media, affiliate, and other emerging channels. I myself have spent the last 8 years overseeing multi-channel marketing strategies for a variety of clients spanning most major industries. As someone who's worked on such a wide variety of accounts and channel types, I'm especially interested in helping brands to effectively diversify their media mix. That said, I know this is an exercise that can be daunting. It's hard to know how to get buy-in, where to begin, how to select the right partners, and what the heck to do about measurement. So for today's purposes, we'll be covering 4 key pillars related to expanding and testing. First, why differentiation and testing are important. Next, how to get started, moving into some foundational elements and process-related pieces, and then finally, understanding results. So if you're not looking forward, you're falling behind. As marketers, this statement likely feels accurate. However, it's easy to forget, especially when you're in a steady state of acceptable performance or feeling like maybe you haven't maxed out your current tactics. However, the reality of digital marketing is that the technology, ad regulations, and user behaviors are constantly evolving and often in ways that are out of our control, which means we're technically always at risk of falling behind unless we've established multiple paths forward. So to take it a step further, 3 factors I think are particularly important to consider when talking about why to bother testing or why should we even differentiate our media mix, things are going good, include the evolution of technology has shown us year after year how quickly things like data usage, ad regulations, and consumer preferences or trends can change. Take, for example, the fact that in the last few years alone, CTV, digital audio, podcasts, and TikTok have all taken off. On the flip side, iOS 14 has had some negative impacts on various advertisers. So testing if we're forced to allows you to capitalize on emerging and evolving trends and also allows you to more easily adapt once it is necessary. Testing and diversifying helps to build a deeper understanding of your audience and of your brand. When you rely solely on a limited number of highly controlled platforms, your insights and learnings can become stagnant over time. Testing into new areas allows for a better understanding of not only who your audience is, but also what types of ads best resonate with them. Lastly, this one kind of feels like it goes without saying, but when you're testing, you're very likely to find a new and effective ways of reaching your target audience. Keeping in mind that your audience is human and understanding that 2 individuals who look the same on paper could still be persuaded to engage in different ways is really crucial. Another example here would be my best friend and I. We're the same age, we're of the same socioeconomic status, and for the most part, our general preferences and behaviors are pretty similar. I, however, engage very little with online ads and tend to be more captivated by ads that don't feel like ads, whereas she's the first person to buy the product that pops up in her feed. While we might be just as likely to purchase your product or engage with your brand, we just consume ads and engage with ads differently. So by putting all of your eggs in only the most obvious baskets, you could absolutely be leaving entirely untapped pools of prospects out there. So now you're convinced it's worth it, you're on board. Let's cover at a high level general framework that I recommend when beginning the process of selecting, planning, and measuring against those new tactics. At a high level, here's some stepping stones, and we'll go deeper into these throughout the rest of the presentation. First, determine your why. Getting on the same page about your objective is crucial. Narrow it down. Options are endless. Don't overwhelm yourself by trying to do it all at once. Next, compare your opportunities. So even if you think you've made your mind up after narrowing it down, make sure you continue to consider multiple top options and go deep with those considerations. Next, align on measurement and understand that it might look different than your other current tactics. That's okay. Moving into execution, we'll talk about creating timelines and planning ahead, giving yourself ample time to do it right. And then finally, make a selection, launch it, and learn from it. Keep your eyes on the prize and move forward. Okay, so we've covered at a high level. Let's go deeper on each one of these. What's your why? You might be thinking to test, duh, but you do need to take it a step further than that. Ask yourself, are you testing to reach a new group of people? Do you want to confirm existing audience insights? Are you eager to try that hot new tactic, or are there certain publications or data capabilities that excite you? Most advertisers honestly probably want a little bit of all of it, but the important thing is to align on your core focus. Is it new people, new places, new data, etc.? Once you've aligned on your true motivations, now comes the time to narrow down your options. They really are endless, and sometimes it's pretty hard to determine what the right path forward is. Or maybe on the flip side, you already have tunnel vision and you have your blinders on. So when considering where or how to expand, an exercise I like to work through is making a list of where I either know or at least believe my audience is socializing, where they're browsing and being entertained, where they're getting inspiration and research from. Compile a list of all of those places, platforms, tactics, etc. Be as specific as you possibly can. That list can be pretty long, but once it's created, I then go through that list and start to ladder back. How did these tactics relate to my why? Will they even help me achieve my why? For example, if I find myself being drawn to TikTok because it's the hot new thing, and I've confirmed, yep, my audience is there, but my why is being able to test new targeting capabilities or wanting really robust audience insights after the fact, that platform might not quite be the best fit for me yet because it's newer, its targeting capabilities are limited, and reporting still isn't, fully fleshed out. So ladder back to your why as you're narrowing it down. Once you've fully narrowed it down to the list of top options, you start comparing them. And I mean really comparing them. There's often a lot more information available than what's immediately shown in a media kit or on a website, specifically as it relates to high-level metrics like reach, engagement, audience insights, etc. For example, in a media kit, let's say a site boasts significant growth in readership or viewership or even engagement year over year. Ask for more detail on which audience segments that growth is coming from. Ask for metrics related to your specific audience. How has growth in readership for women 20 to 35 grown in the last 12 months versus just your entire pool of audience? It's great if a platform is growing, it's great if their tech is evolving, but if it's not specifically related to the pool of people you're trying to get in front of or your key objectives, then it's ultimately not really that helpful. So once you've gone deeper with understanding your options, make sure that you're comparing based on similar objectives, or at least make a determination based on a specific objective. They could be different, but make sure you're making it for a well-rounded reason. For example, if one partner looks compelling because they have really cost-effective ways of reaching a huge audience, but the other has higher CPMs and therefore it's a bit more expensive to get in front of people, but they say that their engagement rates are likely to be stronger, you have to kind of determine which one's more compelling for your end goal. Are you looking to make a splash with a big group of people, highlight a new launch, etc.? Or are you really just looking to, get engagement from a small niche group of people? Once you've determined those basics, now make sure that you're getting explanations on why performance or benchmarks might vary. Going back to my previous example, if one platform offers really cost-effective reach and another is more expensive, but you haven't gotten clarity on why, then you're not really making an informed decision. The answer could simply be we're a more premium brand, or we're allowing you access to really unique data segments, or even just we have limited inventory remaining and we're going to sell it at a premium. All of those are normal reasons. Just make sure you consider at a deeper level what the differentiators truly are and don't get distracted by just that surface level data. So now you have an idea of where you're going to run, how you're going to execute, what's exciting you, etc. You can then move into discussing measurement assumptions. I will say if your why isn't very clear or you have kind of a mixed bag of business objectives, it might be better to dive into measurement before you've even started comparing your partners, just so that you're only evaluating those who can meet any necessary stipulations related to measurement. So this is certainly a step that can fall in multiple places in the process, but it's one that you should never skip. So first, keep in mind that you need to select relevant KPIs to the tactic. This isn't just as simple as, oh, don't measure non-clickable ads on click-through rate. No, it's about recognizing where in the funnel these tactics lie, how costs and user behaviors will vary based on that, and then determining a measurement framework that effectively supports those differences. Certain platforms are more expensive than others because maybe they're premium or high impact. Some tactics will drive a lot of views and minimal clicks. Others may drive strong engagement rates but low volume interactions. Make sure you establish ahead of time whether your goal is reach, engagement, conversion, and ensure that the tactics you've selected are capable of achieving those. Next, kind of similar to KPIs, make sure you're talking and thinking about look back and measurement windows in a realistic way. If a tactic is extremely top of funnel, you shouldn't expect to see immediate results. Most consumers don't engage with the brand the first time they see it. Look back windows allow you to see when people came back and engaged with you later, how long it does take people to make the decision to engage with the brand, etc. Similarly, creating appropriate measurement windows will allow you to evaluate performance once it's actually applicable. Don't jump the gun on measuring something that's really top of funnel too quickly out of the gate. Same really bottom of funnel retargeting tactics. If you wait too long, it's kind of moot point. So set those frames up ahead of time. Next, use directional and or supporting metrics to tell a more holistic and interesting story. Consider the value of showing that you reached a new segment of your audience, or the value of running something really splashy alongside a high value brand. For example, let's say you sell home goods and you've decided to test a partnership with HGTV. The value of that test goes beyond just how much traffic is driven, but it also lies in how many impressions you just received alongside a highly trusted, aligned, and viewed brand. Partnerships like this can go a long way in creating something like brand equity and future brand recognition when someone is in market for your products. Maybe they're searching for home decor 3 weeks later and your brand pops up. And because they recall the brand from that article, now they're going to click on your ad instead of your competitors. Where I'm going with this is don't just use surface level or engagement KPIs to tell the story. There is value in the positioning. There is value in getting the brand out there in the reach, everything along the way. And finally, don't look at performance in a silo. Blended metrics are good. Keep an overall pulse on the performance of your business and trends. Not every action is going to be perfectly tracked or attributable. Create benchmarks for those trends and monitor how they change over time before your test, during your test, and after. Consider that between different devices, decision makers, data regulations, conversion cycles, and just general imperfections with attribution, you might not always have the hard numbers to prove that something worked better than the other thing. But if your business is trending in the right direction, then chances are your test contributed to that. So we're comfortable with the measurement conversation. We've narrowed down our partners. We're now ready to start to think about execution and timelines associated with that. So let's talk about some things you should and shouldn't be doing when building an effective testing plan. Basically, plan ahead, like further ahead than you think you need to, and definitely don't rush it. The worst time to test is when you're desperate. General rule of thumb, this varies for everyone. I really try to plan at least a full quarter ahead for clients. Ideally, you're kicking off the year with like a loose testing framework and you have an idea of where you're going, but at a minimum, a quarter ahead. However, there are some situations where you might be in a pinch and you really do need to launch something new, or you've got incremental funds that you need to activate, et cetera. In those circumstances, I do try to give at least a minimum of 6 weeks to go through things like approvals, RFPing, creative execution, launching, et cetera. So there's no perfect timeline. You understand your brand best, but take that into account when thinking of all of these do's and don'ts. So do keep typical approval timelines and processes in mind. Don't just assume that things will get signed off on right away. Especially if you're an agency partner, keep in mind that there are likely stakeholders beyond just your POC, and that new things often take the longest to get buy-in. Plan around or in conjunction with seasonality and business cycles. If you can avoid launching a test during a likely peak or valley, that'll better help you understand results. Similarly, if you can plan ahead, you might be able to get even better support for that seasonality than just say by introducing people to your brand right at the point of ideal purchase. For example, we like to say good rule of thumb for e-commerce clients leading up to Black Friday is making sure that you're pushing pretty significant prospecting efforts about 6 weeks out, just to make sure that you get multiple touch points in place before that peak truly comes. Next, make sure you build in time to nail your assets. You really don't want to look back and wonder if performance flopped because you went to market with a weak message or a so-so asset. This is especially true when considering some of the more emerging or unique platforms that require things like high quality video or really well-developed landing pages. Work with either your in-house, the client side, whoever, work with the creative teams ahead of time to understand if the timelines required of the plan you've built are even feasible based on assets needed. Last, unless I guess you're not concerned with understanding the impact of each tactic, you should be phasing out your test. Consider complementary launches and spread things out a bit. Yes, if you launch 3 new tactics all at once, you're likely to see a pretty decent spike in business. However, you might not be able to clearly tell which one of those tactics actually performed better than the other or what their true impact on the business was. So keep it separate, spread it out, give yourself clean testing windows to understand true impact of each tactic so that you know what your best paths forward are. So at this point, you have the basics and the stepping stones, and we've gone live, right? Now we're laddering back to our goal. Everyone's on the same page about evaluating performance. What do we do at this point? Okay, give it some time. Keep in mind, new tactics often need to gather data, build up audience pools, need to be fine-tuned. They may also have longer conversion windows, especially when talking about prospecting. So stay close to it, but don't pull the plug just because you don't see immediate results. Again, no timeline is perfect, but I do generally try to give tests at least a month, at a minimum 2 weeks before you're starting to even make major optimizations. Which leads me into fine-tuning it. Keep in mind, most testing strategies start broader than where they end, so you should be fine-tuning over time. For example, it's not uncommon to launch with 10 plus audience segments layered into a strategy or multiple creative variations. As you do start to see those clear opportunities, act on those. Lastly, continually learn from it. Even if you don't see holistically stellar results, chances are there's still pockets of learnings in there. Maybe you ran multiple placements with a new publisher and display flopped, but the newsletter drove great traction. Now you can run with newsletters in the future or maybe test that with different publishers moving forward. There's still a learning there. Similarly, let's say you ran a national campaign, but you start to see certain geos really pop out. That creates another avenue for continued growth and will just further support your test moving forward. Okay, we breezed through the basics. That's it for now. If I can leave you with any recommendations, it would be to remember that no major brand got there by standing still. Testing and diversifying is necessary for long-term growth and relevancy. Your options are endless. Make educated decisions and don't run only towards shiny objects. Planning and learning will take time. Give yourself plenty of it. And there is no singular metric that tells the entire story. Keep an open mind, evaluate your business holistically, and find value in your learnings, both the wins and the flops. Thank you everybody for your time today. You've got this.